Hi, welcome to Hear the Raw. I am Paul Schneider. Hear the Raw, as always, is available on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and pretty much most podcast platforms now. And you can also follow us on TikTok on underscore raw. That's TikTok, here underscore raw, where I'm also sharing my own journey, which is a re-diagnosis of a recurrence of my cancer from 3 years ago. And that's under the hashtag of Paul's Journey. But ultimately, that's TikTok, just again, here underscore raw, and on Instagram on here the raw. So interesting interview I've got today. We're really looking forward to this. In amongst Melanoma Awareness Month and Sun Awareness Week, I have Michelle Baker, the CEO of the Melanoma Fund, here for an interview today. She's got a lot to talk about, and I'm really looking forward to getting this underway. So, hi, Michelle.
Good afternoon, Paul. Lovely to finally meet you face to face virtually.
Yes, it is. And I do have to make apologies or allowances, by the way, for some background noises. I've got two cats. They both had operations this week. Both are walking around with cones on their heads and lashing into all sorts of things. So there is going to be some background noise that I have to apologise for in advance. So just to get that covered. So as always, Michelle, tell us all about the Melanoma Fund. Who are you? What do you do? And also, I'd like to know a little bit about your journey to becoming the CEO of the Melanoma Fund, if that's okay.
Okay. Unfortunately, you cut out there, Paul, but I'm going to take it that you want to hear about what we do as a charity. So the Melanoma Fund was started in 2000 by a fellow called Harry Townsend, who created the charity in legacy of his wife, who died of melanoma, which spread to her brain. Unfortunately, at that time, little was publicly known about melanoma. There were no melanoma charities or any awareness campaigns around it, really. And this preventable death really stung him and the family, because when they started learning more about what melanoma was, they realized that this was seeded in childhood from a sunburn. And when she was diagnosed at late stage, they realized that if it was diagnosed early, they would still have Melanoma Townsend with them. So it really, really affected Harry, and he basically went on a mission, created the charity, a very simple charity called the Melanoma Townsend Melanoma Research Fund, and went on a mission to raise money. And this man was incredible. He passed away a few years ago. But he left an indelible mark on me as a person, just with regards to his passion. He raised over £500,000 for the charity by doing incredible things like walking the Grand Canyon, walking across New Zealand, just lobbying people, knocking on doors, making people aware of this cancer, because it was the only way really he could live with himself, by not knowing about it. He was a very strong rugby coach who, he had a Jedi skill of getting people to do amazing things. His story is epic. And when I met him, he was an elderly in his late 70s, but his passion and it left a mark on me. And basically, I started working with the charity as their PR comms campaign director, and became more and more involved. To the point now today where I am the CEO, and I have sort of his passion has touched me, and I do everything I do really. People say, well, why are you so passionate about working for this charity? Why melanoma? I have not been like cancer, but I would not ever pretend to understand the journey of a cancer patient, Paul. But I do understand about the importance of prevention and how that affects people. So, so the Melanoma Fund exists today as a charity that raises awareness, educates and prevents melanoma. And we do this with a number of free resources that are designed for sports and outdoor clubs. So within the sports and outdoor sector, before we started doing this within the sector, there was nothing, little to nothing ever said about sun protection in sport. So
Yes.
we are in that stage today where we're now the leading provider. We're a small charity. We're the ones that are doing that and recognised in the sector for doing that.
Amazing stuff. This ties into, in fact, I think we came across each other actually through the interview I did with Nick Pugh, the caddy for Lucas Herbert, the
That's
golfer,
right, yeah.
a number of weeks ago. And one thing I became aware of just through my own interest in the sport actually was that in cricket, I believe I don't know when it started to happen this, but I know that the people that surround the professional support of cricket started to show an interest in the skin of cricketers. I think that started happening years ago when you started seeing them wear the zinc and what have you on their faces, that zinc kind of block and what have you. But I know that the cricketers are looked after and have been for quite some years because of the exposure to the sun. I'm becoming aware that's happening more in golf. But what's interesting is when I sort of learned a bit more about the golf world through Nick, I started to think, well, what about workers? People that work, just for example, on construction sites. Who famously wolf whistle and have their tops up all day long. And work in the sun. What about kids that play football on their school football pitches? It's a lot of people you've got to reach and a lot of awareness you've got to create.
Absolutely. That's absolutely, and I get asked this all the time. What about the builders? And absolutely, anyone under the sun really that spends prolonged period outdoors is liable and at high risk of all types of skin cancer. Now, we're not saying at all that you shouldn't go outside, and we do not say stop playing.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and we make it very clear that our lead message is get out there and have fun. But the problem is in this country is that we do not take sun protection seriously. We look at it as being a barrier to, and a lot of people will say, that's not me, I always put sunscreen on. But think about it, it's a barrier to what we perceive as being attractive, which is getting a tan. And most people will put a little bit sparing so that anti-aging, but leave their body and exposed areas free because they want to get a tan. Now the fact is that and this is something that I have battled with when I first joined the charity, because I wouldn't say I was a tanner, a person who always got a tan, but I did see the value in it. But I realise now that it's not a tan. Basically, is an oxymoron. A healthy tan is an oxymoron, because a tan basically is your sun protecting itself and it's burning. It's like a layer where the skin is trying to protect itself, but it's damage. And when that tan fades, you are left with all sorts of damage, which most people just think is normal aging. All those dark spots and wrinkles and dehydrated top of your arms. You go, well, that's just aging. No, it's not. It's actually sun damage. And the fact is, this is normal, but it's really not. If you have a look at the skin of someone that keeps their the skin of someone who keeps it protected from the sun, it's a whole different story. So I always say, compare your bum to your arms, the skin. And although it's slightly different skin, you can see the damage that you've done. Now, it's up to you if you want to do that. Now, obviously, there's two things from the sun. It's aesthetic damage, and then there's health medical damage. That sun damage and those dark spots can also turn into things like basal cell or squamous cell carcinoma, which are scratchy sort of lumps, scaly or shiny bumps on your skin, which a lot of people say, yeah, well, that's just old age. It's not. That is actually can be skin cancer. Now, they're called non-melanoma skin cancer, and they aren't malignant, so they don't travel into the body, but they still need to be cut out because they can still, and that means they're disfiguring. So if you have a basal cell carcinoma on your face or a squamous cell carcinoma and it's on your nose, you're going to lose half your nose. Now, if you feel that that's acceptable, then then by all means go out and don't use sunscreen. But if you feel that that's something you want to avoid, I would slap on the SPF 30.
Do you know, Michelle, the classic, I think, is that people believe they can handle sun more than their skin actually can. Now, there are, I think in my naive understanding of all this, compared to yourself and anyone working more in your world, is that, everyone has a relevant, a different, sorry, level of tolerance for UV rays, right? Just generally, the
Yeah,
different skin tones and types
yeah,
will
yeah.
be that case. But one thing that I only got my head around myself, probably in my late 20s, was that using a factor 30 or a factor 40, 50, etc., doesn't stop you getting a tan. It stops you
No,
burning.
absolutely. Yeah. So no, that's exactly right. So it will stop you burning, but that does not mean that you can go out and sunbathe all day with you've got a factor 30 or 50 on.
That's right.
It's a bit like, someone said, well, what's the healthiest way of going out and sunbathing all day? It's a bit like saying, well, what's the healthiest way of smoking? you know,
Yes.
I suppose you don't inhale. But the fact is that, what this is the recommended, and I'm not saying don't go out in the sun. So what I would do as the person who runs a melanoma charity, if I went on holiday to Greece or if I'm outdoors playing sport, I will make sure I cover up on the areas. So clothing is the first form of prevention. That and shade. So if you're having lunch, you sit in the shade. You won't sit in full sun and think, oh, I'm going to get myself a nice tan. You're just
Yes.
wise. This is what your body should be doing. This is what your body's telling you. Oh, go cool off. You feel much better in the shade. So do that.
Yes.
Wear a hat, and if you are exposed, or if you're in an area, if you've got shorts on, you've got sports kit on, just wear sunscreen on those exposed areas, and just try and limit time in the sun around the sort of noon time. Now, I'm not being a killjoy, because I can hear people going, well, I'm not doing that. Oh my God, these people who just say, the sun's good for you. Yeah, in small doses, the sun is good for you. It produces vitamin D, absolutely. But really, it's not good to be prolonged all day out in it, because you will have sun damage and you could get any form of skin cancer. And a lot of people go, oh, it happens in later life. Well, actually, not necessarily, because melanoma is the fastest and most common cancer in people of Gen Z. And that's a lot to do with the fact
Wow.
that many sunbeds and don't respect the sun. So yeah, I think it's just being sensible and realizing that tan that you think is going to make you attractive is actually damaging your skin
Yeah.
big time.
There's a huge education factor around this. I see this as there's we're going to come on to what you're doing out there in the big wide world
Yeah,
in a second,
I would
but
say
you're out
actually,
there.
Paul, it's not psychological.
Sorry, say that again. You broke up there, Michelle.
It's a psychological viewpoint. It's up to everybody to look at the way they look at the sun, and really look at it and realize there is a little bit of a rethink you have to. There's a revision of what you believe about what the sun is, and everyone needs to look at their own attitudes about it,
I totally
and
agree.
maybe
And
look
for
at their
me,
own done.
yes, I agree. I've got to apologise for the internet connection here, but we're getting through quite nicely. So, talk to me about what you guys have been doing as part of Melanoma Awareness Month and Sun Awareness Week. Then, so you've got a massive job
Okay.
on, Michelle. You guys have been doing some phenomenal work. I know you're working with some significant players in the sporting world. Talk to us about what you're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously Melanoma Fund, we're a small charity, raise awareness, educate, prevent melanoma, which obviously I haven't touched on, which is the most dangerous form of skin cancer, and all types of cancer. And we do that in sport and outdoor recreation, working with major or major national governing bodies who pass this message down to their members, so that's sports clubs and groups, outdoor activity groups all around the UK. We provide free resources for those groups to ensure that they are providing the right messaging to their stakeholders to ensure they're doing their best around sun protection. This month we have launched a new course called Sun Guarding. It's the first course of its type in the UK, and actually, funny enough, I don't promote this because it sounds so ridiculous, but it's the first ever there has been no course that's promoted sun and heat protection for sports coaches and outdoor activity leaders. And this 2-hour online course provides 3 CPD points and is being supported by many national governing bodies, including the LTA, the PGA, Mountain Training Activity Alliance, the AFP, which is Association of PE Teachers, and many, many more. We've had 200 downloads in the first few days, which is amazing. And it's going. So the fact is, we're launching this course to educate educators on the fact that they have a responsibility to change their psychology around sun protection. Sports coaches and outdoor activity leaders are looked up upon by not just children, but everyone who they teach. If you have a sports teacher, or if you're going mountain leading on a mountain expedition and you've got a mountain leader, everyone will look at that mountain leader for modeling good behavior. He puts his cap on a clip on a certain. Now, if you see that mountain leader saying you need to wear sun protection and him putting it on himself, what are you going to do? You're going to put it on yourself. You're going to go, well, actually, if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. And kids also, young people, children, youth, do exactly the same. So this course doesn't just promote and educate on the importance of sun protection. It gets those activity leaders to understand they have to model good behaviour. And it's all about leading by example. If we can do this and get those people in authority to lead by example, we have a chance of changing behaviour and growing skin cancer out of the next generation.
Oh. You there, Michelle?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, just got the end of that cut off. But I'm going to ask a brave question, and I'm interested to hear how you answer it. Now, half of me is expecting you to say, I don't think I want to answer it because for maybe legal reasons. I don't know. I've teed it up, so I might as well crack on with the question. Are there some specific brands or types of sun cream or lotion or oil that are absolute yes, use them, you back them, as in the Melanoma Fund, back them all day long? And are there some that get the hell away from them? They don't do what they say on the tin. Be aware, stay careful. Are you okay to answer that?
Yeah, I can answer it, but probably not in the way that you'd think.
Okay.
So I get asked this all the time. Obviously, sun protection needs to be an SPF of 30 or above. So anything below that, like an SPF 15, it may be better than nothing, but really you should be using SPF 30. So I would take everything off the table that's below SPF 30. So let's take all that off the table first. Then you're left with everything SPF 30 plus. So all the oils that, or the tan accelerators, low SPF, take that away. Then you're left with the products. Then you need to choose a product that protects against UVA and UVB, and that will say that on the label. So that's a broad spectrum product. So take everything else that isn't broad spectrum off the table. A 5-star product is good, so look out for that. That isn't on every label, but that's a good sign.
Right.
Apart from that, honestly, anything is better than nothing. But remember, sunscreen is only part of the issue. Sunscreen does contain chemicals, and although they are not harmful, you don't really want to be putting chemicals on your skin if you don't need to. Chemicals in sunscreen are much better than not wearing them in the sun. So yeah, put on that sunscreen. Absolutely, it's not harmful. However, if you have the chance of wearing a long sleeve rash top, if children are running around the beach or playing rugby or football, instead of a little vest top, a long sleeve rash top, which wicks away moisture as well, I would choose that and just use it on my arms, on my hands and on my face. Yes. With formulations, I would never spray anything into my face. If you have a spray, spray into your hands and then dab it on your face and reapply every 2 hours. I would say an SPF 30 is preferable over a 50 in most cases, unless you have very fair skin, mainly due to the fact that you would prefer to apply it because it's less claggy and it can absorb better. But there's some great formulations nowadays. So in general, to answer your question, as long as it's a broad spectrum. It's over it's 30 and over, and it's the right consistency for you, and you reapply every couple of hours, then Bob's your uncle.
No, that's fantastic. And just on this note, I think, what neither of us want here is, to tell everyone, stay out the sun, it's bad for you. We don't want that message to be out there. It's about going in the sun the right way, as you said, to smoke correctly, I suppose, to quote that line. However, the what I would like to know, if you've got some available just on the front of your mind, are some stats. I think the truth is what we're all after. Have you got some interesting or notable or worth knowing facts about skin cancer, whether that's by age group, by sex type, etc., that are just worth being aware of, just to hit people with, because we've spoken about the do's and don'ts, but what do the facts say?
Okay, I don't have a list of facts, but I can give you some generalized just generalized quotes. So just one blistering sunburn doubles the chance of melanoma in later life, especially in young people. Now that's probably the most hard-hitting fact that you can possibly have. The fact is that a lot of people who've had melanoma that can trace that back to a sunburn in childhood. Now, that doesn't mean that we're all going to sit here and think, oh, we're all going to get melanoma because we've had a sunburn, because most of us have had. But it's a bit like any other cancer. If you're predisposed to something, it can trigger it. So just be aware of your skin, and be aware that if you've got young children, do not allow them to sunburn. And if they're going to a sports activity all day, make sure that coach is okay or accredited to one of our campaigns or understands the importance of sun protection. Really important. With regards to skin cancer, prevalence is rising at a ridiculous rate. It's gone up, I think, 140% over since the 1990s, and it's rising fast. And that's mainly due to the fact that we're spending more time outdoors, more summer holidays, cheaper holidays. Really, there's been, we think that, it's not so cool to get tanned anymore. People are still chasing that tan. There's still ambivalence around sun protection. And people are also doing sunbeds, which is ridiculous. It's more damaging than cigarette smoking. The fact that people still do sunbeds and think that they're going to get away with it, that is not a good idea. So if your daughter or your wife or you take a sunbed, I would strongly advise you to stop doing that. They are not healthy. Over 16,000 people a year receive a melanoma diagnosis, although it's the highest, obviously it's the most, more fatalities in melanoma than any other skin cancer. It's the most dangerous. It's the 5th most dangerous cancer of all, melanoma, and skin cancer is the most dangerous cancer, the most prolific cancer in the world. With the rates go beyond any other cancer all put together. It's ridiculous, and that's just what we know. A lot of people walk around without knowing they have that skinny lump or on their face or on their arm is skin cancer. It's not good.
No, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. I think the facts and the truth speaks for itself. So going back to what you guys do, you're working with, as you said, the PGA, the LTA, some amazing organisations that have people in their field that are exposed to the sun all day long. Where else do you want to reach to, Michelle? Who is it you're not touching at the moment that maybe can hear this, could get in touch, get some information from you? The people that some industry sectors, sports worlds, for example, that really need to be talking to you to get what you do and the awareness of melanoma out there more.
Absolutely. So obviously we are in the right places. There's a saying, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. So all these organisations support what we do. They forward this information on. What we want is for sports clubs to act and use our resources. Every time we get a resource used, it pings through to me, so I know that it's being very well picked up, but we can always do better. What I am looking out for at the moment is, I would like, if anyone has a high profile in sport, is an athlete or a high profile coach, and they understand what we're doing, if they or someone they know has been affected by melanoma or other form of skin cancer, to get in touch with me, because they can influence and help us reach a wider audience. Unfortunately, not a lot of people talk about cancer, and I think it needs to be talked, especially melanoma. So if you have had it, you can really influence a lot of people by helping support what we do. That's what I'm looking for right now. And the second thing we're looking for, which is vital, is that we need funding. Everything we do is free. Our course is free, but it costs us a lot of money to put this out. So if you feel that you've done this course, or you feel that what we do is valuable, then please do look to donate to Melanoma Fund, because that is something that we are desperately in need of.
And to support that, when I publish this interview, I'll be putting you've got a Just Giving link, I think, Michelle, haven't you?
That's correct. Yes, it's on our website. So it's on the first page. It's a donate link. So you can, yeah, absolutely.
So I'll be including that in the notes when I publish this interview. So yes, please do donate. This has actually hit me quite hard in terms of this. I had no idea melanoma or skin cancer was kind of the leading cancer out there worldwide, I think you stated. One thing I'd like to know, and I think it's what I'm thinking, so I'm guessing a lot of other people would think the same thing, is dark skin versus light skin and the various shades between. Who's at more risk? Who maybe statistically suffers more or gets diagnosed more, etc. That'd be good to know, Michelle.
Yeah, okay. So it's quite commonsensical when you think about it. So the melanin in our skin gives us a different, different color. So if you have black skin, you have more melanin in your skin. And if you've got very light skin, which is called type 2 skin, like if you've got freckles, red hair, at the other end of the spectrum, you've got less. The melanin protects us. So with regards to skin color, if you have red hair, freckles, you are very high risk of melanoma and other forms of skin cancer. You will be someone who doesn't tan easily but burns. As you know, your skin isn't being protected, so you really need to cover up. But if you have red hair and pale skin, you'll know that it was something that you've been brought up with, and you'll understand it. So absolutely. The other end of the scale, you are less likely. However, it's not unheard of, and skin cancer, unfortunately, does happen, but in different areas. So if you have black skin, you're more likely to see a melanoma on the soles of your feet or within your nail. Unfortunately, many doctors do not diagnose this early. So black people, or black skin, or black and brown skin, have higher mortality rates because it's not diagnosed as soon.
Right.
And they don't
right.
to their GPs because they don't think they're going to get melanoma. So all skin types need to watch out for it. And also it presents differently. So it'll be a different color mark. It'll be a purplish mark. So get to know your skin. Realize that no matter what color skin you have, you can still get skin cancer. So what we say is check your skin monthly, get to know it, understand your marks and your spots and your different, we've all got it. We all, look at our skin and we all kind of recognize it. If there's a mole that you can see that's different or growing and meshing on your back and torso, have a look around, get someone to check your back. If it's different, get it checked out. It could save your life.
Absolutely. And so tell me how has Melanoma Awareness Month and Sun Awareness Week been for the Melanoma Fund? What have you guys been up to? What's been out there about you guys?
It's been really busy, actually. We did obviously BBC radios around last week, talking about the launch of our new course. We did BBC Spotlight, which is still on iPlayer, which was the work we've done in Plymouth. We did a case study in Plymouth and got nearly every outdoor organisation to support what we're doing there, which was amazing. And we did in Parliament yesterday doing a cohort with two other charities to raise awareness to MPs on what we do. We spoke to 30 MPs in Westminster talking about our work, and I basically spoke to them and got one action from each of those MPs. So each one has agreed to do one thing, and luckily one of the MPs was very friendly with the chair of the FA. So I'm going to be
Right.
speaking with regards to getting this very important course into the teaching resources of the FA, which is my mission.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal, Michelle. So look, I think the work you do is incredible. You know, the reason, half of this reason for this interview was to create more awareness of what you do, so that we can get some more funds into your charity, right? So please, if you are listening, you have a link to melanoma or anything, or just a spare cash, please do donate to Melanoma Fund. As I said, there will be links to where to donate in the description of this interview when it's published in a couple of days' time. Michelle, I think this has been really quite enlightening. I've got so many questions, but they're all around the same topic. One is, are there regions around the world that are worse for exposure to sun and therefore skin cancer, or is that too wide a question?
No, not necessarily. Of course, there are, and this relates to the type of skin you have, and sorry, to the climate. I would say Australia, obviously, and New Zealand, that they have high levels. However, they also have high levels of awareness as well. You know,
Right.
if you speak to Australian, they'll go, "Yeah, slip slaps not, mate. You know, you've got that's a terrible Australian accent." But they will be very aware of the importance of sun protection and take it a lot more seriously. But there are obviously countries, like people that live in, you know, European countries, they're not like us. They won't go out and lay on the beaches, you know, like
No.
full, you know, the next time you do this, the next time you see, you know, although we're not about lying on beaches, it's damn obvious, but you see people just lying there baking in the sun, just take a long look and just think, is that really sensible? You know, what are they doing? And you just try and get it from a different aspect. So obviously different countries have different levels. Obviously, if you're going to countries like, you know, Africa, I'm not too sure on the exact stats for each country, but those countries are very aware of not to lie out all day in the sun, and they will protect their skin from the sun. So it's more about attitudes, Paul. And
Yes.
unfortunately, I'd love we are on it in the UK, but we really need to review our attitudes towards sun protection and realise that, you know, if you're a man and you have a balding head and you're starting to get all those little marks on your head and they look really, you know, they don't look attractive, realize that's a lot to do with that. That's to do with sun damage. So wear a cap, cover up, especially if you're a golfer.
Yes, so this was what I took away from the interview with Nick, which I found fascinating, was that, you know, he's always, so he's, having spent so much time on the golf course throughout his whole life, he's always put sun cream and high factor sun cream all over his body, but thought that putting a hat or a cap on was enough to protect his bald head. Turns
Yeah,
out that
no,
wasn't the case at all.
no, not at all. No, if you're going to do that, and I would never say you have to wear a wide brim cap, because I know golfers will not do that. I will say just cup your ears with sunscreen, cup it round your ears, and ensure that you're covering your ears, because skin cancer on the ears is very common in golfers, and on the side of the head,
Yes.
neck, really, really, really common. So just cover up. And also, you won't get that horrible golfer's tan where half your head's white and the other half's
Or the tennis tan that they talk about on the
oh, the
arms.
tennis tan. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not attractive, is it really? So
No.
yeah, it's really common sense. So I think the takeaway from this is just respect your skin. You know,
Yes.
the best anti-aging treatment in the world is SPF 30.
100%. And also, the more you tan when you're younger, because we want to look gorgeous and beautiful and dark and tanned. Actually, the quicker you'll wrinkle when you're older, if I'm not mistaken, the worse your skin will look at an earlier age when you're older. And clearly, the risk
Absolutely.
the risk of melanoma and skin cancer is exceedingly higher.
Well,
There's some
when the
mass.
tan fades, the damage remains. So I would say, you know, be like me, fake it. I always use fake tan, and it's great. And you know, I think most people really get that. It's just about understanding and doing it. Use fake tan.
Yes, and from what I gather, apply it properly, otherwise you get streaky marks. Is that
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Use a sponge glove. Sponge glove.
Right.
Absolutely. You don't want to.
You just to let you know, Michelle, you did cut out there for a little bit. The internet's suffering here. So just again to explain to the listeners, we had some guy at 3 in the morning the other night crash into a pylon in our road, which has caused some internet issues in our road. So we've kind of, considering how poor the internet is, certainly on my side, this interview's gone extremely well. Michelle, I just want to say a huge thank you for today. You've really opened my eyes up to the world of skin cancer and melanoma. You really have. I mean, as I say, I did an interview with Nick a few weeks ago, and that opened my eyes up. But this has even more so. I think, and as with any cancer, you know, I'm learning a lot more about all sorts of types of cancer. It's about looking after ourselves. You know, there's so many
Yeah.
things that we can do in life that we do just to feel good, look good, eat good, whatever it might be, that actually does so much damage to our bodies. So this is another takeaway of the same type, but from a different, cancer point of view. Phenomenal. Look, I just want to say thank you very much. Is there any lasting leaving message you'd like to say before we
Yeah.
wrap this up?
Absolutely, I would. The last thing I'll say that, just remember your responsibility towards others when it comes to sun protection, because if you're putting on
Yes.
sunscreen, you're a parent or you're a coach or you're a teacher or you're a person that people look up to in any format, which hopefully we all are. If you're modeling good protection and good habits like sun protection, those people will do the same thing. So let's pass this on in a really good way, especially to children. If you're smudging sunscreen to the faces of your children, and you're not being on yourself, what does that say? It basically means that you're not modeling good behavior. They're not going to follow suit. They're going to follow suit from your behavior. So remember, if you're wearing sunscreen, others will, take note of that behavior. It's always good to model good behavior and lead by example.
Yeah, that's a great point, Michelle. And if I'm not mistaken, the sun is getting more dangerous as the years go by anyway, correct?
Well, we're getting more extreme temperatures, more heat, more wet and rain, which leads us to go out in the sun quicker, longer, because we haven't had the sun so long. So yeah, I mean, look at us all now. Everyone's running out there into the garden doing barbecues and probably trying to get a speed tan to make up for the fact that we've had such a wet spring.
Yes.
And what's
Yes.
happening now? So it's the fact is that this inclement weather is creating more desire to rush out and get a quick tan. You can't, you'll just burn. Don't do it. Honestly, it's just really not worth it. Ask anybody who has been touched by skin cancer and they will tell you.
Yeah, I totally agree. Michelle, thank you so much.
Thank
So
you.
that's
Thank you.
no, great having you on, and we'll speak obviously ongoing anyway. So look, I'm Paul Schneider. That was Michelle Baker, CEO of the Melanoma Fund. I'm Paul Schneider. This is Hear the Raw. You can follow Hear the Raw at hear.the.raw on Instagram and hear_the_raw on TikTok, where, as I said earlier at the header of this podcast interview, I'll also be talking through my now current journey through a rediscovery of a return of cancer of my own. So once again, thank you, Michelle. And you can find us on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Wish you all the best. Enjoy the sunshine, everyone, in a careful way. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Bye.